I dragged myself through the front door. After a 10-hour shift in the emergency room, my scrubs still smelling like antiseptic, and my feet screaming for mercy. The kitchen light was on. I headed that way, thinking about the leftover meatloaf in the fridge. Then I stopped cold. There was a second refrigerator, a big stainless steel one, right next to mine. My daughter-in-law, Tiffany, stood beside it with her arms crossed. She looked at me like I was a stranger who'd just broken into her house. My brain was too tired to process what I was seeing. 2 refrigerators in my kitchen. The new one gleamed under the fluorescent light, all shiny and modern compared to my old white Kenmore that Helen and I had bought 20 years ago. "What's going on?" I asked, setting my lunch bag on the counter. Tiffany didn't move. She just stared at me with those cold blue eyes. "This is our fridge," she said. "Not hello. Not how was your shift, Jimmy. Just that flat statement." "Your fridge," I repeated, trying to understand. "Mine and Marcus's." She walked over and pulled open the door. Every shelf was packed with food. Steaks, fresh vegetables, fancy cheeses, orange juice, milk, and on every single item, there was a sticky note with her name written in black marker. Tiffany, Tiffany, Tiffany. "I don't understand," I said. She closed the door and turned to face me. "It's simple. This is our food. We bought it. We'll eat it. You need to buy your own groceries from now on, and keep them in your fridge." She pointed at my old Kenmore like it was some kind of ancient relic. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Tiffany, I've been feeding you and Marcus for 2 years, since you moved in. And we appreciate that," she said, but her voice had no warmth in it. "But we're adults now. We need our own space. Our own things." I walked over to my fridge and opened it. Nearly empty. A half-empty bottle of ketchup, some wilted lettuce, a jar of pickles. Everything else was gone. The meatloaf I'd been thinking about. The cheese. The sandwich meat. All of it. "Where's all the food?" I asked. "We moved our stuff to our fridge," she said. "Like I said, we're keeping things separate now." I turned to look at her. Really look at her. Tiffany was 28 years old, worked part-time at a hair salon, spent most of her days shopping or meeting friends for lunch. She'd been living in my house rent-free since she married my son Marcus 3 years ago. I'd never asked them for a dime. Never complained when they took over the living room every night or left dishes in the sink or played their music too loud. "Tiffany, this is my house," I said quietly. "I know that," she said, "but it's our home too, and we have a right to our own things." Before I could respond, I heard the front door open. Marcus called out, "I'm home." My son walked into the kitchen, loosening his tie. He worked in sales for a medical supply company. Good job. Made decent money. At least, that's what he told me. "Dad," he said, nodding at me. Then he saw Tiffany's face and his expression changed. "Everything okay?" "I was just explaining the new arrangement to your father," Tiffany said. Marcus looked between us. "Dad, we talked about this." "No," I said. "You didn't talk to me about anything." He sighed like I was being difficult. "Tiffany and I have been discussing it for weeks. We need our own space. Our own things. We can't keep living like we're still kids." "I never treated you like kids," I said. "I gave you the run of the house, never charged you rent, bought all the groceries." "And we're grateful," Marcus said, but he didn't sound grateful. He sounded annoyed. "But Dad, we're tired of you acting like we owe you something." That hit me like a punch. "I never said you owed me anything." "You didn't have to say it," Tiffany cut in. "It's the way you look at us, like we're taking advantage." I stared at my son, my only child. The boy Helen and I had raised, put through college, supported when he couldn't find a job right after graduation. The young man we'd welcomed into our home when he said he and Tiffany needed a place to stay just for a few months while they saved money. That was 2 years ago. "I never thought that," I said softly. "Well, it doesn't matter now," Marcus said. "We're keeping our groceries separate. It's cleaner this way. Less confusing." I was too tired to argue. Too tired to fight. I just nodded. "Fine. I'll buy my own groceries tomorrow." "Good," Tiffany said, and she actually smiled. "I'm glad we understand each other." I went to my bedroom, the master bedroom I'd shared with Helen until cancer took her 18 months ago. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her picture on the nightstand. She was smiling in that photo, taken at the beach in San Diego 5 years ago, back when life made sense. "What's happening, Helen?" I whispered to the picture. "What did I do wrong?" The next morning, I stopped at the grocery store on my way home from another shift. I'd worked overnight in the emergency room and my body ached. But I bought food anyway. Bread, lunch meat, cheese, milk, eggs. Nothing fancy, just enough to get by. When I got home, Marcus and Tiffany were both at work. I put my groceries away in my fridge and wrote my name on each item with a black marker, just like Tiffany had done. It felt ridiculous, childish. But I did it anyway. Then I went to bed and tried to sleep. 3 days later, I came home from another shift, opened my fridge to make a sandwich. Everything was gone. Every single item I'd bought. I found the empty bread bag in the trash. The empty milk carton. The lunch meat package. They'd eaten all my food. I found them in the living room, watching television. "Did you eat my groceries?" I asked. Tiffany looked up, her face perfectly innocent. "What groceries?" "The ones I bought 3 days ago. They're gone." She frowned. "I don't know what you're talking about. We only eat our own food." "Everything in my fridge is gone," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Marcus turned from the television. "Dad, are you sure you didn't eat it yourself?" "What?" "Maybe you forgot," he said. "You've been working a lot. You're tired." I stared at him. "Marcus, I bought a full loaf of bread, a pound of turkey, a dozen eggs. I didn't eat all of that in 3 days." "Well, we didn't touch it," Tiffany said firmly. "Maybe you're just confused." And that's when I understood. They were gaslighting me, making me doubt my own memory, my own reality. I went to my room without another word, lay on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. Helen's voice echoed in my memory. "Family takes care of each other, Jimmy, always. But what happens when family is the one hurting you?" The next 3 weeks were a nightmare. I bought groceries. They disappeared. I confronted Marcus and Tiffany. They denied everything. Sometimes they said I must have eaten the food and forgotten. Other times they suggested maybe I hadn't bought as much as I thought. Once, Tiffany actually said, maybe I was sleepwalking and eating in the middle of the night. I started keeping receipts, taking pictures of my food with my phone, time-stamped, documenting everything. I felt crazy doing it, but I needed proof. I also started eating most of my meals at the hospital cafeteria. It was expensive, eating out every day, but at least I knew the food would actually be there. That's when I noticed something else. My mail was being opened. I'd come home and find envelopes slit open, bills and bank statements rifled through. When I asked Marcus about it, he said he was just trying to help keep track of things, but I hadn't asked for help. One afternoon, I came home early from a shift. I'd been feeling off all morning, lightheaded and nauseated. My supervisor Carol had sent me home to rest. I walked into the house and heard voices upstairs. Marcus and Tiffany were both supposed to be at work. I went up quietly. Their bedroom door was open. I could see Marcus sitting at the desk with papers spread out in front of him. My papers. From my bedroom. "Marcus?" I said from the doorway. He jumped, actually jumped, and tried to cover the papers. But I'd already seen them. Bank statements, investment records, Helen's life insurance information. "What are you doing with my documents?" I asked. "Dad, I was just." He trailed off, looking guilty. "Just what? Going through my private papers?" Tiffany appeared from the bathroom. "We were concerned about you," she said smoothly. "You've been so forgetful lately. We wanted to make sure your bills were getting paid." "My bills are fine," I said. "And those papers were in my room, in my drawer." "The drawer wasn't locked," Marcus said defensively. I walked over and gathered up the papers. My hands were shaking. As I picked them up, I saw my bank statement from last month. Something caught my eye. A withdrawal for $5,000. I didn't remember making any large withdrawals. I took the statements to my room and really looked at them. Going back through 6 months of records, my heart started pounding as I added up the numbers. $35,000. Missing. Gone from my savings account. Withdrawals started small. 500 here, 1,000 there. Then they got bigger. 3,000, 5,000. The dates went back almost 8 months. I checked my checkbook. I hadn't written these checks, hadn't authorized these withdrawals. Then I remembered something that made my blood run cold. When Helen got sick, she'd added Marcus as a joint holder on our savings account, just in case something happened to both of us. Just in case we needed someone to access funds for medical bills or emergencies. Marcus had legal access to the account. I sat on my bed with the statements spread around me. $35,000. Helen's life insurance money. The money we'd saved for retirement, for emergencies, for our future. Gone. I went downstairs. Marcus and Tiffany were in the kitchen, cooking dinner. From their fridge, of course. The smell of steak filled the air. Expensive steak. The kind I couldn't afford anymore, apparently. We need to talk, I said. They both turned. Tiffany had a glass of red wine in her hand. Wine I definitely hadn't bought. "What's up, Dad?" Marcus asked, too casually. I put the bank statements on the counter. $35,000 is missing from my savings account. Marcus barely glanced at the papers. "Oh, that." "Oh, that?" I repeated. "Marcus, that's my life savings." "Dad, those were loans." "Loans? I never loaned you any money." "Sure you did," he said. "Last November, you said we could borrow some money for Tiffany's car repair. Remember? That was $500, I said. "Not $35,000. Tiffany set down her wine glass. "We've borrowed money several times. For emergencies. You said it was fine. I never said you could take $35,000. Marcus's face hardened. "Look, Dad, you said we could stay here rent-free. We've been here for 2 years. Do you know how much rent would cost? We figure we've saved you at least $30,000 in expenses. Think about it. We buy our own food now. We pay for our own gas, our own entertainment. We're basically paying our way." My mind was reeling. "You're saying you think you're entitled to my savings because you're not paying rent? On a house I own outright? Where you live for free?" "We're not living for free," Tiffany snapped. "We take care of things around here. I clean. Marcus does yard work. We took care of you after Helen died. You were a mess, Jimmy. You couldn't function. We held this family together. You took care of me?" I said quietly. "By stealing my money?" "We didn't steal anything," Marcus said loudly. "I'm on that account. It's joint. That means the money is just as much mine as yours." "Your mother put you on that account for emergencies," I said, "not so you could drain my savings." "Well, maybe you should have been more specific," Marcus said. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. "I want the money back," I said. They exchanged a glance. A long, meaningful look that made my stomach sink. "We don't have it," Tiffany said. "What do you mean you don't have it?" "It's spent, Dad," Marcus said. "We had expenses. Life is expensive. You know that. $35,000 in 8 months? We had Tiffany's car," Marcus said. "My student loans, credit card debt, medical bills. It adds up. None of that was my responsibility. None of it. I'm removing you from the account," I said. "First thing Monday morning." Marcus's face went red. "Fine. Do what you want. But don't expect us to keep helping around here." "Helping?" I almost laughed. "You've been robbing me." "We've been family," Tiffany said coldly. "But if you want to treat us like criminals, then maybe we should start treating this like a business arrangement. Maybe we should charge you for all the care we've provided. All the emotional labor of dealing with your grief, your neediness." I left the kitchen before I said something I couldn't take back. Went to my room. Lay down on the bed. My chest hurt. My head hurt. Everything hurt. Monday morning, I went to the bank. The account manager was sympathetic, but firm. Yes, Marcus had withdrawn the money. No, there was nothing they could do. He was a joint holder. He had legal access. If I wanted to remove him from the account, I could. But the money that was already gone, stayed gone. I removed him from the account. Changed my password. Protected what little I had left. When I got home, there was an envelope on the kitchen counter. My name on the outside. Inside was a letter from an attorney. My hands shook as I read it. Marcus and Tiffany were threatening to sue me for elder abuse. The letter claimed I'd been emotionally abusive to them, that I'd created a hostile living environment, that I'd made false accusations of theft against them. The letter said the $35,000 had been gifts, given freely. They had witnesses who would testify I'd told them to take the money. Witnesses. What witnesses? Who would lie for them like that? The letter got worse. It said I was showing signs of dementia and confusion, that I'd been forgetting things, making paranoid accusations, exhibiting mood swings. It listed everything. The food I'd supposedly eaten and forgotten about. The bank statements I'd supposedly misplaced. The confusion over whether I'd authorized the withdrawals. They were building a case that I was mentally incompetent. And the final threat. They wanted me to sign over the house. The letter said if I did, they'd drop all claims and we could move forward as a family. If I didn't, they'd pursue legal action for the emotional damages I'd supposedly caused them. I sat at the kitchen table with that letter in my hands and felt my world collapsing. They weren't just stealing my money. They were trying to steal everything. My home, my independence, my life. I couldn't sleep that night, or the next. I kept reading that attorney's letter, trying to understand how my life had fallen apart so completely. I went to work, but I wasn't really there. My mind kept spinning. During one shift, I almost gave a patient the wrong medication. Almost. Carol caught my mistake before I made it, but it was close. Too close. She pulled me aside into the break room. "Jimmy, what's going on with you?" I'd worked with Carol for 15 years. She'd been at Helen's funeral. She knew me. And I broke. Just completely broke. Told her everything. The fridge. The missing food. The stolen money. The attorney's letter. All of it. Carol listened with her arms crossed, her face getting redder and redder. When I finished, she said one word. "Lawyer." "I can't afford a lawyer," I said. "They took my savings." "Then we find you a cheap one," she said. "Or legal aid, or something. But Jimmy, you cannot let them do this to you." She loaned me $500 from her own pocket. Refused to hear my protests. Just handed me the cash and said, "Pay me back when you can. But get yourself a lawyer today." I found one that afternoon. His name was Gary Stevens. His office was above a dry cleaner in a strip mall. His consultation fee was $75, which told me everything I needed to know about his success rate. But he was what I could afford. Gary was in his 50s, balding, wearing a suit that had seen better days. But he listened to my story and nodded along like he'd heard it before. "This is unfortunately common," he said when I finished. "Adult children financially exploiting their parents. Can we get the money back?" I asked. He grimaced. "That's the problem. Your son was a joint account holder. Legally, he had access to those funds. Proving it was theft rather than authorized withdrawals is difficult without documentation. Do you have anything in writing saying the money was yours alone?" "No," I said. "It was just understood. The account was mine and Helen's. Marcus was only added for emergencies." "Understanding and legal proof are two different things," Gary said. "Now, the house is different. That's in your name only, correct?" "Yes." "Good. They can't touch that without your signature. Don't sign anything. Not a single document, no matter what they threaten." "They're saying I have dementia," I said. "That I'm confused and paranoid." "Do you have dementia?" Gary asked bluntly. "No." "Then we get documentation proving that. We'll need a cognitive evaluation from a doctor, mental health assessment, anything showing you're of sound mind. Because if they're going this route, they might try to get a conservatorship. Take legal control of your affairs." The room spun. "They can do that? If they can convince a judge you're not competent to manage your own life? Yes, they can." I left Gary's office feeling worse than when I'd arrived. He'd given me a list of things to do. Get evaluated. Document everything. Don't engage with Marcus and Tiffany. Let him handle all communication. His retainer was $2,000. I didn't have it. He said he'd work with me on payments, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He didn't think I could pay him. And honestly, I wasn't sure I could either. At home, things escalated. Marcus and Tiffany started making demands. They wanted me to cook for them again, do their laundry, clean their bathroom. When I refused, Tiffany would make comments about how I was proving their case about my instability. "Normal people help their family," she said once. "But you're just being vindictive." "I'm not your maid," I said. "No, you're our father," Marcus said. "Or at least, you're supposed to be. But instead, you're treating us like enemies." The gaslighting was constant. Relentless. They'd move things and claim I'd moved them. They'd say I'd agreed to things I'd never agreed to. They'd tell me I'd had conversations I had no memory of. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was forgetting things. Maybe I was confused. No, I wasn't. I knew what they were doing. But knowing didn't make it easier to handle. The stress was killing me, literally. I could feel it in my chest, a constant pressure, a tightness that wouldn't go away. 3 weeks after getting that attorney's letter, I was at work when the pressure in my chest became pain. Sharp, radiating pain down my left arm. Carol took one look at me and called for help. I don't remember much after that. The gurney, the lights overhead, someone saying my blood pressure was through the roof, then darkness. I woke up in a hospital bed 3 days later. Cardiac unit. I'd had a mild heart attack. The doctor, a kind woman named Dr. Sarah Patel, explained that stress was a major factor. She asked about my life. I gave her the short version. She frowned. "Mr. Peterson, you need to eliminate the stress factors in your life. This is serious. Another event like this could be fatal." "I'm working on it," I said weakly. Marcus and Tiffany visited once. On the second day, they stayed for 20 minutes. Tiffany brought flowers. Marcus held my hand and said he was worried about me. It would have been touching if I didn't know better. I was discharged on the third day with medications and strict instructions to reduce stress. Carol picked me up, drove me home, helped me inside. "You're going to be okay," she said. "We're going to fix this." But I wasn't sure anything could be fixed. That night, I needed to use the bathroom, around 2 a.m. I got up slowly, still weak from the hospital stay. As I walked past Marcus and Tiffany's room, I heard voices. They were talking. The door was slightly open. I should have kept walking. But I stopped, listened. "The doctor said stress contributed to it," Tiffany was saying. "I know," Marcus replied. "So we need to be more careful. We can't push too hard." "But we're running out of time," Tiffany said. "We need that house signed over before he changes his will or something." "He's not going to sign it over," Marcus said. "Not willingly. We're going to have to go the conservatorship route." "Your attorney friend says we have a good case," Tiffany said. "Especially now with the heart attack. We can claim he's not physically or mentally capable of caring for himself." "The evaluation is scheduled for next week," Marcus said. "Doug owes me a favor. He'll write the report we need." Doug, the evaluator, their friend. The report was going to be rigged. I felt sick. Sicker than I'd felt in the hospital. "Once we have conservatorship, we can sell the house," Marcus continued. "That neighborhood is hot right now. We should clear at least $600,000. Split it, pay off our debts, start fresh somewhere else." "What about your dad?" Tiffany asked. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, "There are facilities. We'll find the cheapest nursing home that's still decent. His pension will cover it. He'll be taken care of." "Will he fight it?" "Probably. But if he's declared incompetent, it won't matter. We'll have legal authority." I backed away from the door slowly, went to the bathroom, threw up. Everything I'd heard churned in my stomach like poison. They were going to have me declared incompetent, take my house, put me in a nursing home, and there was nothing I could do about it. Or was there? I left the house the next morning, before Marcus and Tiffany woke up, called in sick to work. I couldn't face another shift. Not yet. Not with everything happening. I drove to Gary's office. He wasn't happy to see me without an appointment, but he made time. "They're planning to file for conservatorship," I told him. I heard them talking. "They have a friend who's going to do a rigged evaluation." Gary's expression darkened. "Do you have proof? A recording?" "No. I just heard them. That's hearsay. Won't hold up in court." He rubbed his face. "Jimmy, I'm going to be straight with you. Conservatorship cases are expensive to fight. We're talking $10,000, maybe $15,000 in legal fees. And without solid proof of their scheme, it's your word against theirs. They have an attorney. They have a plan. And unfortunately, they have the advantage. So I just let them steal my life?" "No," Gary said. "But you need resources I can't provide. You need a specialist, an elder law attorney with experience in financial abuse cases, and you need a forensic accountant to trace the money. And Jimmy, I'm sorry, but you can't afford me, let alone specialists." He was right. I knew he was right. But hearing it still felt like a punch to the gut. I went to my bank, checked my remaining balance, $8,300. That was all I had left in the world besides my pension. It wasn't enough, not for the lawyers I needed, not for the fight ahead. I went back home. My home. The house Helen and I had bought 32 years ago. Where we'd raised Marcus. Where we'd built our life. I sat in my car in the driveway and cried. When I finally went inside, I made a decision. I needed my important documents, my passport, birth certificate, social security card, the deed to the house, Helen's death certificate, the life insurance papers. I kept them all in a fire-safe box in my closet. I went to my bedroom, opened the closet. The box was gone. I tore apart my closet, looked under the bed, in the drawers, everywhere. The box was gone. All my documents, gone. I found Marcus in the kitchen. "Where's my document box?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "What box?" "The fire-safe box from my closet, with all my important papers." "Haven't seen it. Maybe you moved it somewhere and forgot." "Marcus, I need those documents." "Then I guess you should have kept better track of them," he said. I went to Tiffany. She was in their bedroom, folding laundry. "Do you know where my document box is?" She looked at me with those cold blue eyes. "Why would I know where your things are, Jimmy?" "Because they were in my closet yesterday, and now they're gone." "Well, I didn't touch them," She went back to folding. Maybe you should check with your memory. Oh wait, that's not working so well these days, is it? I searched the entire house. Spent 4 hours going through every room, every closet, every drawer. The box was gone. My documents were gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 3 in the morning, I went down to the basement. Helen and I had used it mostly for storage. Old furniture, holiday decorations, boxes of memories. I was looking through boxes, hoping somehow my documents had ended up down there, when I heard something. A sound from upstairs. The creak of a floorboard. Footsteps. I froze. Listened. The footsteps moved across the kitchen. Then I heard the distinct sound of the back door opening and closing. I went upstairs carefully, looked out the kitchen window. Marcus's car was pulling out of the driveway. At 3 in the morning. I went to their bedroom. Knocked. No answer. Opened the door. Empty. Both of them gone. Something made me check their closet. I'm not sure why. Maybe intuition. Maybe desperation. On the top shelf, behind some shoeboxes, I found it. My document box. I pulled it down, opened it. Everything was still inside. I grabbed my phone and took pictures of every single document. Took pictures of the box in their closet. Evidence. Proof they'd taken it. Then I heard a car door slam. They were back. I grabbed the box and ran to my room, shoved it under my bed. Got back into bed fully clothed, just as I heard footsteps on the stairs. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might have another heart attack right there. The next morning, I woke up to pounding on my bedroom door. "Dad, get out here," Marcus yelled. "Now." I opened the door. Marcus and Tiffany were both standing there, faces flushed with anger. "Where is it?" Tiffany demanded. "Where's what?" "You know what," Marcus said. "Give it back." "I don't know what you're talking about." "The box," Tiffany said. "We know you took it." "From your closet?" I said. "The box you claim to know nothing about?" Marcus's face went red. "That's our closet. You went through our things." "Those are my documents," I said. "In my house. You stole them." "We were keeping them safe," Tiffany said. "You're not capable of keeping track of important things anymore." "Get out of my room," I said. "This is our house too," Marcus said. "No," I said. "It's my house. Your guests here. Unwelcome guests." Marcus stepped forward. For a second, I thought he might hit me, but he just stared at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure hatred. "You're going to regret this," he said quietly. They left. I locked my bedroom door, called Gary, told him what had happened. "Get those documents somewhere safe," he said. "A safety deposit box. A friend's house. Somewhere they can't access." I took the documents to Carol's house that afternoon. She put them in her home safe. 3 days later, I came home from a shift to find the locks on the house had been changed. I stood on my own porch with my key in my hand, unable to get into my own house. I rang the doorbell, knocked, waited. Finally, Tiffany opened the door. Her face was all concern. "Jimmy, what are you doing out here?" "The locks are changed," I said. "My key doesn't work." "Oh," she said, like she just remembered. "Right, we had to change them. Security reasons." "Security reasons?" "After your episode the other night, going through our things, we were worried you might become violent." "Violent? I've never been violent in my life." "The doctor said the heart attack could cause personality changes," she said. She handed me a new key. "Here." "But Jimmy, we need to talk about some changes." I went inside, headed to my bedroom, the master bedroom, stopped in the doorway. All my furniture was gone. The bed Helen and I had shared for 30 years, the dresser, the nightstands, all of it, replaced with a single twin bed and a small dresser. "What did you do?" I said. Marcus appeared behind me. "We moved you to the smaller bedroom, the one at the end of the hall." "That's the guest room," I said. "And now it's your room," Tiffany said. "We thought you'd be more comfortable in a smaller space. Less confusing." "Confusing?" "The doctor said, simplification is good for people with cognitive issues," Marcus said. I walked down the hall to the small bedroom at the end, 10 feet by 12 feet. Barely big enough for the twin bed and dresser they'd moved in there. My clothes were thrown in a pile on the bed. My pictures from the master bedroom were gone. Helen's photo wasn't there. "Where's Helen's picture?" I asked. "We packed up some of your things," Tiffany said. "Too much clutter isn't good for you." "I want Helen's picture." "We'll get it for you later," Marcus said. "Right now, you should rest. You look tired." I went to the master bedroom. My bedroom. Marcus and Tiffany had moved in completely. Their clothes in the closet. Their things on the dresser. They'd taken over my room. You can't do this, I said. We can. And we did, Tiffany said. This is for your own good, Jimmy. You need care, supervision, and we're providing it. Get out of my room, I said. It's our room now, Marcus said. You get the guest room. Be grateful we're letting you stay at all. I stared at my son. This stranger wearing my son's face. What happened to you? I whispered. I grew up, Marcus said. Maybe you should too. I went to the small bedroom, my new prison, sat on the twin bed. Everything I owned in the world was in this tiny room. Then I noticed something else. Helen's jewelry box was gone. She'd kept it on her dresser in the master bedroom. Her mother's rings, her wedding rings, her pearl necklace. All of it meant to be passed down someday. I went back to the master bedroom, looked everywhere. The jewelry box was gone. Where's Helen's jewelry? I demanded. Jewelry? Tiffany said innocently. Helen's jewelry box. It was on the dresser. I haven't seen it, she said. Marcus? My son shrugged. No idea, Dad. Like I said, maybe you moved it and forgot. I went back to the small bedroom, started going through my things, looking for anything else they might have taken. That's when I found it in the trash, a receipt from a pawn shop, dated 3 days ago. $8,200 for assorted gold jewelry. They'd sold Helen's jewelry. Her mother's rings that had been in the family for 90 years. Her wedding rings. Everything. Something inside me snapped. I stormed back to the master bedroom. Marcus was there alone. You sold her jewelry, I said. I don't know what you're talking about. The pawn shop receipt. $8,000. You sold Helen's jewelry. Prevails, Marcus said. And I lost it. Completely lost control. I grabbed him, shoved him against the wall, my hands around his collar. I was 67 years old, but rage gave me strength. That was your mother's jewelry, I shouted. Your mother's. Marcus's eyes went wide. Then they changed, calculated, cold. Tiffany, he yelled. Call 911. He's attacking me. I let him go, stepped back, realized what I'd done. Tiffany ran in with her phone. Yes, I need police, she said into the phone. My father-in-law is having a violent episode. He just attacked my husband. I didn't attack him, I said. You had your hands around his throat, Marcus said, rubbing his neck. I've got marks. The police arrived 15 minutes later. 2 officers. They listened to Marcus and Tiffany explain how I'd become violent, how I'd attacked Marcus without provocation, how they were worried about my mental state. Tiffany showed them the attorney's letter about my supposed dementia, showed them her phone with the name of my doctor, asking if they could verify my cognitive issues. I tried to explain about the stolen jewelry, about the documents, about everything. But I sounded paranoid, desperate, confused. The older officer, a Hispanic man with kind eyes, pulled me aside. Sir, I think you should go stay somewhere else tonight. Let everyone cool down. This is my house, I said. I understand, he said. But right now, for everyone's safety, including yours, you should go somewhere else. I have nowhere to go, I said. The officer looked at Marcus and Tiffany, then back at me. I could see the sympathy in his eyes. He knew something wasn't right, but legally, he couldn't do anything. Is there a friend you can stay with? He asked. A motel? I ended up at a motel off the highway. The Sunset Inn. $79 a night. I used Carol's money. Money I still hadn't paid back. Lay on the lumpy bed in room 12 and stared at the water-stained ceiling. Everything was gone. My house, my room, my wife's jewelry, my dignity. And I had nowhere left to fall. I stayed at the Sunset Inn for a week. Every night. $79 I couldn't afford. My savings account was down to less than $2,000. Carol had loaned me another $500 when she found out I was living at a motel. I'd cried when she gave me the money. Actually cried in front of her. Jimmy, it's going to be okay, she'd said. But we both knew she was lying. I tried to function. Went to work. Did my shifts. Came back to the motel. Ate fast food because I had no kitchen. No fridge. No home. On the 8th day, I needed money from my bank account. Went to the ATM. Card declined. Tried again. Declined. I went inside the bank. The teller checked my account and frowned. Sir, your account has been frozen. Frozen? Why? There's a legal hold on it. You'll need to speak with the manager. The manager, a young woman named Ashley, pulled up my account. Mr. Peterson, there was a conservatorship filing made 3 days ago. An emergency petition. Until the hearing, all your accounts are frozen to prevent asset dissipation. What does that mean? It means you can't access your money until a judge rules on the conservatorship. But that's my money. My pension gets deposited there. How am I supposed to live? I'm sorry, Ashley said. But legally, we have to comply with the court order. I left the bank in a daze. No access to my money, no way to pay for the motel, no way to buy food, nothing. I had $43 in my wallet. That was it. That was all I had in the world. I drove to Gary's office. He looked exhausted when I told him what had happened. They moved fast, he said. The emergency conservatorship must have been filed the night you, had the altercation with Marcus. What do I do? We fight it at the hearing. But Jimmy, I have to tell you, this looks bad. You attacked your son. The police were called. They have medical documentation, suggesting cognitive issues. They have witnesses. And now your accounts are frozen, which means you can't pay me or anyone else. So I've already lost. Gary sighed. Not necessarily. But you need help I can't provide. I'm sorry. I really am. I sat in my car outside Gary's office and tried to think. I needed to get into my house. Needed to find evidence. Something to prove what they were doing. I drove back to my house. It was noon. Marcus would be at work. Tiffany usually went to the gym around this time. I used the key she'd given me. It didn't work. They'd changed the locks again. I walked around to the back. Checked the windows. One basement window was open about 3 inches. The latch had been broken for years. I'd meant to fix it, but never had. I squeezed through. I was a thin guy. Always had been. Got skinnier after Helen died. Got even skinnier these past few months with stress eating away at me. I made it through. Dropped onto the basement floor. My back screamed in protest. I was 67 years old, breaking into my own house through a basement window. I went upstairs carefully. Listened. The house was empty. I went to the master bedroom. My bedroom. Their bedroom now. Started searching. I needed evidence. Proof of their plan. I found it in Tiffany's nightstand drawer. A journal. Purple leather cover. I opened it. It was all there. Written in her handwriting. Dates going back 18 months. Plans. Schemes. Calculations. Today we moved in with Jimmy. Finally. This is going to work. He's so lost without Helen. He barely notices we're here. Marcus got added to the savings account. Jimmy still doesn't know. This is perfect. First withdrawal today. 500. Jimmy didn't notice. We'll wait 2 weeks before next one. Jimmy is so trusting. It's almost sad. But we need this money more than he does. What's an old man going to do with it anyway? The plan is working perfectly. Another 5,000 out. We've got 23,000 so far. Just need to get the house signed over somehow. Talk to Marcus's friend Doug. He'll do the evaluation for the conservatorship. He owes Marcus from college. This is going to work. Jimmy is getting suspicious. Need to isolate him more. Make him think he's crazy. Marcus suggested the separate fridge thing. Brilliant. Page after page. Every detail. Every manipulation. Every theft. All of it documented in her own handwriting. I took out my phone. Took pictures of every page. My hands were shaking so hard it was difficult to hold the phone steady. Then I heard a car door slam. I froze. Looked out the window. Tiffany's car. She was home early. I shoved the journal back into the drawer. Ran for the basement stairs. Got halfway down when I heard the front door open. I know someone's here, Tiffany called out. I saw the basement window. I made it to the basement. Started for the window. But I was too slow. Too old. Too tired. Tiffany appeared at the top of the basement stairs. She saw me. Her face changed. Became something cold and calculating. You broke in, she said. This is my house, I said. Not according to the court, she said. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. Again, I was just getting my things. Breaking and entering, she said. She was already dialing. Yes, I need police. There's an intruder in my house. Your house? I said. Your house? Jimmy, just stop, she said, and for a second her voice softened. Almost sounded sad. You're making this so much harder than it needs to be. Why can't you just accept that you need help? That we're trying to help you? By stealing everything I have? We're not stealing, she said. We're taking care of you. There's a difference. The police arrived. Different officers this time. A young white man and an older black woman. They listened to Tiffany explain how I'd broken in, how there was a restraining order being filed, how I was supposed to be staying elsewhere. I tried to show them the photos on my phone, the journal, the evidence. The male officer looked at the photos. Sir, These are just pictures of someone's journal. How do we know you didn't write this yourself? Why would I write about stealing from myself? To frame your son and daughter-in-law, the female officer said gently. Sir, we've read the reports. We know you're going through some mental health challenges. I'm not crazy, I said. We're not saying you are, she said. But breaking into a house, even if you think it's yours, is still breaking and entering. They gave me a warning. Told me if I came back, I'd be arrested. Told me the conservatorship hearing was in 6 days, and I needed to let the court handle everything. I left, drove away, had nowhere to go. The motel was out of money. Carol's house wasn't an option. I'd already burdened her enough. I ended up sleeping in my car that night. In the hospital parking lot. Used the bathroom in the emergency room where I worked. Washed up in the sink. Tried to make myself presentable for my shift the next day. My shift. I still had to work. Had to try to function. Had to pretend everything was fine while my entire life fell apart. Carol found me in my car the next morning. She'd come in early and saw me. Knocked on the window. Jimmy, what are you doing? I couldn't even answer. Just started crying. This 67-year-old man sitting in his car crying like a child. Carol got me out of the car. Took me to the cafeteria. Bought me breakfast. Listened while I told her everything. The break-in, the journal, the warning from police, the hearing in 6 days. You're coming home with me, she said. I can't, I said. Yes, you can, she said. Greg and I have a guest room. You'll stay with us. Carol, you've already done so much. And I'll do more, she said firmly. Now come on, let's get you somewhere safe. I stayed with Carol and Greg that night, and the night after. They fed me. Let me shower. Gave me clean clothes. Treated me like a human being. Greg was a lawyer, not the kind I needed. He worked for a nonprofit helping homeless youth. But he knew people. You need Patricia Walsh, he said on the third night. She specializes in elder abuse. Financial exploitation. She's expensive, but she's the best. I can't afford expensive, I said. Let me call her, Greg said. Explain the situation. She sometimes takes cases pro bono if they're egregious enough. I didn't think my case was egregious enough. Just sad. Just pathetic. But Greg called. And somehow, miraculously, Patricia Walsh agreed to meet with me. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, wearing an expensive suit. Her office was in downtown Sacramento, 23rd floor, with a view of the river. I felt out of place in my old slacks and wrinkled shirt. But she shook my hand and sat me down and listened. I showed her everything. The photos of Tiffany's journal, the bank statements, the attorney's letters, the police reports, all of it. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then she looked at me and said, Mr. Peterson, what they've done to you is criminal. This is textbook elder financial abuse, emotional exploitation, fraudulent conservatorship filing, and I'm going to make sure they pay for every bit of it. I can't afford your fees, I said. I'll take this case pro bono, she said. Because people like your son and daughter-in-law make me sick, and because I'm very good at what I do. I felt hope for the first time in months. Real, actual hope. We have 6 days until the hearing, Patricia said. That's not much time, but it's enough. Here's what we're going to do. She laid out a plan. A forensic accountant to trace the money. Subpoenas for bank records. Adult Protective Services involvement. Everything. But here's the important part, she said. We don't tell them anything. Let them think they're winning. Let them think you're still just a confused old man with a cheap lawyer who can't help you. The surprise will be devastating. Over the next 6 days, Patricia worked miracles. Her forensic accountant traced every dollar Marcus had taken, matched it with purchases, vacations, designer clothes, new furniture, a 75-inch television, all of it bought with my money. She got documentation from the pawn shop about Helen's jewelry, got the police reports from both incidents, got statements from my doctors proving I was mentally sound, got my employer to document my work performance. She found the credit cards Marcus had opened in my name. $17,000 in debt I didn't know about. Identity theft? That was a felony. She contacted Adult Protective Services. An investigator came to interview me at Carol's house, listened to my story, looked at the evidence, filed a report recommending immediate intervention. Patricia filed emergency motions with the court. Fraud, financial exploitation, false conservatorship filing, identity theft, a list of charges that made my head spin. But Marcus and Tiffany didn't know any of this. As far as they knew, I was still living in my car or crashing with friends. Still helpless. Still losing. The conservatorship hearing arrived. I wore a suit that Greg loaned me. It was too big, but it was clean. Patricia met me at the courthouse. She looked confident. I felt sick. "Remember," she said, "stay calm. Let me handle everything. They're going to say terrible things about you. Don't react. Just sit there and let me work." We went into the courtroom. It was smaller than I expected. Just a judge's bench, a few chairs, and a table on each side. Marcus and Tiffany were already there with their attorney, a man in an expensive suit named Robert Chen. He looked smug, like this was already over. Tiffany saw me and actually smiled. A small, sympathetic smile, like she felt sorry for me, like she'd already won. The judge entered. A woman in her 60s named Judge Barbara Morrison. She looked stern, no nonsense. The hearing began. Robert Chen stood up and presented their case. He was smooth, professional, made it all sound so reasonable. "Your Honor, this is a sad case. Marcus Peterson and his wife Tiffany have been caring for Marcus's father, James Peterson, for the past 2 years. During that time, they've watched James's mental state deteriorate. Memory problems, paranoia, confusion, mood swings." He presented the doctor's notes, the police reports. "Made me sound dangerous, unstable. There was an incident where Mr. Peterson physically attacked his son, unprovoked. The police were called. And more recently, Mr. Peterson broke into the family home. Again, police were called. He made it sound like I was a stranger breaking into someone else's house, not a man trying to get into his own home. Mr. Peterson has also made wild accusations of theft. Claims his son stole money from him. But, Your Honor, Marcus Peterson was a joint account holder on his father's savings account. He had legal access to those funds, and the withdrawals were made to pay for household expenses while caring for his father." Lies. All lies. But Robert Chen told them so smoothly. The Petersons are requesting conservatorship not because they want control, but because they love James and want to ensure he receives the care he needs. They've already identified an appropriate assisted living facility, a place where James can be safe, supervised, and receive the medical attention he requires. A nursing home. They were going to put me in a nursing home. We have an evaluation from a licensed clinical psychologist, Dr. Douglas Marsh, who assessed Mr. Peterson and found significant cognitive decline. His recommendation is that Mr. Peterson is not capable of managing his own affairs. Doug, their friend, the rigged evaluation. Judge Morrison looked at the evaluation, frowned, asked some questions. Robert Chen answered smoothly. Then their psychologist testified. Dr. Douglas Marsh. He was young, maybe 40, wearing thick glasses. He talked about cognitive tests, memory assessments, scores that indicated decline. All fake, all lies. I'd never even met this man. "In your professional opinion," Robert Chen asked, "is James Peterson capable of managing his own finances and healthcare decisions?" "No," Dr. Marsh said confidently. "Based on my evaluation, Mr. Peterson requires supervised care and should not be making major decisions independently." Marcus testified next. "My son sat in the witness chair and lied. Talked about how worried he was, how I'd become so confused, so angry, how he feared for my safety. I love my father," he said, and he even teared up. "This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but I can't watch him suffer anymore. He needs help." The performance was convincing. Even I almost believed him. Then Tiffany testified. She cried, actual tears, talked about how she'd sacrificed her own life to care for me, how scary it was when I attacked Marcus, how she worried every day that I'd hurt myself. "He's not the man he used to be," she said, dabbing at her eyes. "The Jimmy I knew died with his wife. What's left is just confusion and anger, and I'm so tired of being afraid in my own home." Judge Morrison looked sympathetic. I could see it in her face. She believed them, every word. Robert Chen wrapped up. "Your Honor, we're requesting immediate conservatorship, authority to place Mr. Peterson in appropriate care, and authority to manage his assets, including the sale of his home, to fund his care." "The sale of his home?" Judge Morrison asked. "Yes, Your Honor. The home is too large for Mr. Peterson's needs. The proceeds would go into a trust to pay for his care. After Mr. Peterson's debts are paid, of course. Debts I didn't have, except the credit cards Marcus opened in my name." Judge Morrison looked at me, really looked at me. I could see her making up her mind, deciding that I was exactly what they said I was, a confused old man who needed help. "Does Mr. Peterson have representation?" she asked. Patricia stood up. Yes, Your Honor. Patricia Walsh, for James Peterson. Judge Morrison looked surprised. Miss Walsh, I didn't expect to see you here. The case came to my attention recently, Your Honor. Robert Chen looked confused. He clearly hadn't expected a high-powered attorney to be representing me, but he recovered quickly. Your Honor, it's nice that Mr. Peterson found representation, but the facts speak for themselves. Perhaps, Patricia said, but I have some additional facts to present, if the court will allow. This is a conservatorship hearing, Robert Chen said, not a trial. The only question is whether Mr. Peterson is capable of managing his own affairs. And I intend to prove that he is, Patricia said, and that this entire conservatorship petition is fraudulent. The room went quiet. Judge Morrison leaned forward. That's a serious allegation, Miss Walsh. And I have serious evidence, Your Honor. Proceed. Patricia opened her briefcase, and the world changed. She started with the photos of Tiffany's journal, blown up, printed, every page showing on a screen for the entire courtroom to see. These are entries from Tiffany Peterson's personal journal, Patricia said, written in her own handwriting. I have the original journal as evidence, obtained during Mr. Peterson's lawful attempt to retrieve his belongings from his own home. She read selected entries, the plans, the schemes, the admissions of theft, all of it. Tiffany's face went white. Marcus looked like he might throw up. This journal details an 18-month plan to financially exploit Mr. Peterson and eventually take control of his assets through fraudulent conservatorship. Robert Chen stood up. Your Honor, the provenance of this alleged journal is questionable. We have no proof my clients wrote this. We have handwriting analysis, Patricia said calmly, from a certified forensic document examiner. The journal is authentic, written by Tiffany Peterson. She presented the forensic accountant's report next. Every dollar traced, every purchase documented. $35,000 stolen from my account, used for luxury goods, vacations, a trip to Hawaii, designer handbags. None of it for household expenses or my care, Your Honor. Marcus Peterson had legal access to his father's account, but he used that access to systematically drain Mr. Peterson's life savings. This is financial elder abuse under California Welfare and Institutions Code Section 15,610. She showed the pawn shop receipts. Helen's jewelry, $8,200. The Petersons sold family heirlooms without permission, property that belonged to Mr. Peterson and his late wife. She presented the credit card statements. Marcus Peterson also committed identity theft. He opened credit cards in his father's name without permission. $17,000 in fraudulent charges. This is a felony under California Penal Code Section 530.5. Marcus and Tiffany were both pale now. Their attorney was frantically flipping through papers, trying to find a response. Regarding Mr. Peterson's mental state, Patricia continued, I have a comprehensive cognitive evaluation performed by Dr. Linda Chen at UC Davis Medical Center. This evaluation was conducted 5 days ago. It shows Mr. Peterson is fully competent. No dementia. No cognitive decline. He scored in the 98th percentile for his age group. She turned to look at Dr. Marsh. As for the evaluation presented by the petitioners, Dr. Douglas Marsh has never actually met Mr. Peterson. The evaluation was fabricated. Dr. Marsh is a personal friend of Marcus Peterson. They attended college together. This is fraud. Dr. Marsh tried to speak. I can explain. Don't, Patricia said sharply. I've already filed a complaint with the California Board of Psychology. You'll be answering for this. She turned back to Judge Morrison. The police reports submitted by the petitioners paint Mr. Peterson as violent and unstable. But let's look at the context. The first incident occurred after Mr. Peterson discovered his late wife's jewelry had been pawned. Any reasonable person would be upset. The second incident occurred when Mr. Peterson attempted to retrieve his own belongings from his own home, a home he still legally owns. She presented the property deed. Your Honor, this house has been in Mr. Peterson's name for 32 years. It's paid off. No mortgage. Marcus and Tiffany Peterson have been living there rent-free for 2 years. They changed the locks on the owner, took over his bedroom, removed him to a small guest room, treated him as an intruder in his own home. Patricia was on a roll now. Unstoppable. I've also contacted Adult Protective Services. An investigator has interviewed Mr. Peterson and reviewed the evidence. Their recommendation is immediate intervention. They filed a report indicating severe elder abuse. She turned to Marcus and Tiffany. And finally, Your Honor, I have text messages between Marcus and Tiffany Peterson discussing their plan, downloaded from Mr. Peterson's phone records, which he had legal access to as the account holder. She showed the texts. Cold. Calculating. Discussing the conservatorship plan. Discussing selling the house. Discussing putting me in the cheapest place possible. Judge Morrison's face had changed completely. The sympathy was gone. Now she just looked angry. Patricia finished. Your Honor, this is not a case of a concerned family trying to help an elderly parent. This is systematic elder abuse, financial exploitation, fraud, and attempted theft of Mr. Peterson's entire estate through fraudulent conservatorship. I'm requesting that the court deny this petition immediately. And furthermore, I'm requesting an emergency protective order removing Marcus and Tiffany Peterson from Mr. Peterson's home. Judge Morrison was quiet for a long moment, looking at the evidence, looking at Marcus and Tiffany, looking at me. Mr. Chen, she finally said, do you have a response to any of this? Robert Chen looked like he wanted to disappear. Your Honor, I was not aware of most of this information. I'll need time to consult with my clients. I don't think you'll be representing these clients much longer, Judge Morrison said coldly. She turned to Marcus and Tiffany. Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, I have reviewed the evidence presented, and I am appalled. Absolutely appalled at what you have done to this man. Tiffany started crying. Real crying this time, not the performance from before. Your conservatorship petition is denied, Judge Morrison said, effective immediately. Furthermore, I'm issuing an emergency protective order. You are to have no contact with James Peterson. You are to vacate his property within 24 hours. You are not to take any items except your personal belongings. Nothing that belongs to Mr. Peterson. Do you understand? Your Honor, please, Marcus said. We can explain. I don't want to hear it, Judge Morrison said. I'm also referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. What you've done here is criminal. Elder abuse. Fraud. Identity theft. You should both be ashamed of yourselves. She looked at Patricia. Miss Walsh, I'll be issuing the protective order today. I'm also freezing all accounts held by Marcus and Tiffany Peterson pending resolution of the civil matter. They are not to dissipate any assets that may belong to Mr. Peterson. Thank you, Your Honor, Patricia said. Judge Morrison looked at me. Her expression softened slightly. Mr. Peterson, I apologize. You should never have been put through this. Your home will be returned to you. I'm ordering the Petersons to provide you with all keys and access codes immediately. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. This hearing is adjourned, Judge Morrison said. She banged her gavel. It was over. The courtroom emptied slowly. Marcus and Tiffany left quickly, their faces hidden. Robert Chen disappeared without looking back. Their psychologist friend Doug practically ran out. I sat in my chair, unable to move. Patricia sat down next to me. You won, she said gently. I can't believe it, I whispered. Believe it, she said. And Jimmy, we're not done. Not by a long shot. Over the next hour, Patricia explained everything that would happen next. The protective order was filed immediately. Marcus and Tiffany had 24 hours to vacate my house. A sheriff would supervise to ensure they didn't take anything that wasn't theirs. The district attorney's office would be reviewing the case for criminal charges. Identity theft was certain, probably fraud, possibly elder abuse charges. Patricia had also filed a civil lawsuit against both of them for return of all stolen money, for damages, for emotional distress, for attorney fees. We're going to get your money back, she said, as much of it as possible. That night, Carol and Greg took me out for dinner, a real dinner at a nice restaurant. We didn't talk about the case, just about normal things. Life, the future, hope. The next day, I went to my house. My house. A sheriff's deputy was there, supervising as Marcus and Tiffany loaded boxes into their car. They wouldn't look at me, wouldn't speak to me, just silently carried their belongings out. Tiffany tried to take a lamp, Helen's lamp from our bedroom. The deputy stopped her. That's not yours, ma'am, he said. It was a gift, she said weakly. Then you'll need documentation of that gift, the deputy said. Otherwise, it stays. They left with just their clothes, their personal items, and nothing else. I watched their car drive away, watched my son disappear down the street. And I felt nothing. No sadness, no anger, just relief. The locksmith came that afternoon, changed all the locks, gave me 3 new keys. The deputy handed me a folder with the protective order details. Marcus and Tiffany couldn't come within 500 feet of me or the house. I walked through my home, my house. It felt empty, violated, but it was mine. Over the next few weeks, things happened fast. Patricia's forensic accountant had gotten a court order freezing Marcus and Tiffany's joint bank account. $28,000. Most of it was my stolen money. The court held it pending the civil case. Their credit cards were canceled. They were using my stolen money to fund their lifestyle, and now it was gone. The district attorney filed charges. Marcus was arrested for identity theft. The $17,000 in fraudulent credit cards was enough for a felony charge. 5 years possible prison time. Tiffany was charged as an accomplice. She'd known about the cards, had used them, had benefited from the fraud. They both hired attorneys. Expensive ones. Burned through their savings fighting the charges. Marcus eventually took a plea deal. 3 years in prison. 5 years probation after release. Full restitution to me. $65,000. The $35,000 he'd stolen. The $17,000 in fraudulent debt. The $8,000 from Helen's jewelry, plus interest and fees. Tiffany turned on Marcus. Testified against him in exchange for a lighter sentence. She got probation and 1,000 hours of community service. No jail time. But their marriage was destroyed. The divorce papers were filed before Marcus even went to prison. The civil case settled. Patricia was relentless. She got judgments against both of them. Marcus owed me the $65,000 from the criminal restitution. Tiffany owed another $40,000 for emotional damages, and her share of the theft. They'd have to pay me for the rest of their lives. Patricia also got a judgment preventing them from profiting from this story in any way. No book deals, no movie rights. Nothing. If they tried, the money would come to me. I got my money back. Not all of it. Some was gone forever, spent on things they'd already consumed or used, but I recovered enough. The $28,000 from their frozen account. Money from the sale of items they'd bought with my funds. Garnishment of Marcus's future earnings. It wasn't everything, but it was justice. I took early retirement from the hospital. I was 67 years old. I'd worked 42 years as a nurse. It was time to rest. I used some of the recovered money to fix up the house. Repaint. New carpet. Erase the memory of them living here. I bought a new fridge. Just one. Put it right where my old Kenmore had been. Threw out the stainless steel monstrosity they'd brought in. I started volunteering with the California Elder Justice Coalition, an advocacy group that helps elderly victims of financial abuse. I told my story to other seniors, warned them about the signs, helped them fight back. I found purpose in my pain. Carol and Greg became like family, real family. They came over for dinner every week. We played cards, watched movies, talked about life. I learned something important through all of this. Family isn't just blood. It's not just the people you're related to. Family is the people who show up when you're drowning. The people who help you fight. The people who see you at your worst and love you anyway. Carol and Greg were family. Patricia became family. The people at the Elder Justice Coalition were family. Marcus was just someone who shared my DNA. I think about Helen sometimes. Wonder what she'd think about everything that happened. I like to imagine she'd be proud that I fought back. That I didn't let them win. I keep her picture on my nightstand now. Back in the master bedroom. My bedroom. Where it belongs. I never found her jewelry. The pawn shop had sold it. Gone forever. But I have the memories. And that's what matters. One afternoon, about 6 months after the hearing, I was in the kitchen making a sandwich. Just a simple sandwich. Turkey and cheese on wheat bread. From my fridge. With groceries I'd bought. And I realized I was happy. Actually happy. For the first time since Helen died. The house was quiet. Peaceful. Mine. I'd survived. More than survived. I'd won. Not because I got revenge. Not because Marcus went to prison or Tiffany lost everything. I won because I got my life back. My dignity. My home. My peace. Sometimes people ask me if I regret fighting back. If I wish I'd just let them have the house and the money. If it would have been easier. And I always say the same thing. No. Never. Not for a second. Because what they tried to take wasn't just money or property. It was my humanity. My right to live my own life, on my own terms, my independence, my sense of self. And nobody gets to take that from you. Not family, not anyone. You fight. Even when it seems hopeless. Even when you're scared and alone and living in your car. You fight. Because you're worth fighting for. I learned that from Helen, actually. Years ago, when she was going through cancer treatment, she was so sick, so tired, but she kept fighting, day after day, even when it hurt. even when she wanted to give up. Jimmy, she told me once, you fight for what matters, and living matters. Being yourself matters. Don't ever let anyone take that from you. She was talking about the cancer. But the advice applies to everything. Marcus is in prison now. Minimum security. He'll be out in 2 years if he behaves. I don't think about him much. Sometimes I wonder if he understands what he did, if he feels remorse. But mostly I just don't think about him at all. Tiffany disappeared. Moved to Arizona, I heard. Works in a salon. Lives in a small apartment. Sends monthly payments of $100 toward the $40,000 she owes me. At that rate, she'll be paying until she's 70. I don't feel bad for her. I'm 73 now. 6 years have passed since that day I came home to find a second fridge in my kitchen. 6 years since my life fell apart. I'm healthy, happy, living on my own terms, volunteering, making a difference, helping other people avoid what happened to me. The house is paid off. My pension is secure. I have enough money, enough friends, enough purpose. And every time I open my refrigerator and see my food there, labeled with my name, I smile. Because it's mine. My food. My fridge. My house. My life. And nobody can take that from me ever again. So here's what I want you to take from my story. If you're going through something similar, if someone is trying to take advantage of you, if you feel powerless and scared and alone, remember this: you are not alone. There are people who will help you. Organizations like the Elder Justice Coalition, lawyers like Patricia who take cases pro bono, friends like Carol who give you a place to sleep and money to survive. You just have to ask for help. And then you have to fight. It won't be easy. It'll be the hardest thing you ever do. But it's worth it. You're worth it. And when you win, when you get your life back, you'll understand what I mean. There's nothing sweeter than sleeping in your own bed, in your own house, knowing you fought for it and won. Nothing sweeter than that. Have you ever dealt with someone trying to take advantage of you? How did you stand up for yourself? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real stories about overcoming life's toughest challenges. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes, knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who's fighting their own battle. Remember, you're stronger than you think. Stay safe and take care of yourself and those you love.